Welcome to the Redeemer Podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and today we are exploring Redeemer's Bachelor of Education program. I'm joined by Redeemer's Gap Manager, Liz Way, to learn about the admissions process for this program and some great advice to consider when you're applying. If it is your first time here, make sure to like and subscribe, share with a friend, and check out some of our other episodes that explore various aspects of Redeemer, Christian education, and so much more. Thank you for making us part of your day. And with that, here we go. And we're back with another awesome episode of the Redeemer Podcast. Today we are talking about Redeemer's education program. Some people call it the Bachelor of Education. Some people call it Teachers College. But we know it. We love it. I'm excited to talk about it. And I am blessed to be here today with none other than Liz, our manager of Gap Admissions. Did I get your title right there, Liz?
Yeah, it's really long. It's Graduate Adult Professional Studies Admissions, so we just call it GAP.
That's fair enough. Well, Liz, I'm excited to talk about the education program today. We're going to talk about mainly the application process for the program, and then we do have a separate episode with a student that will talk more so about the actual program itself. But for the application process, because it is dramatically different from an undergraduate application or other programs, so we're going to talk about that. But let's maybe just start with Liz. How did you come to be in your role at Redeemer?
Great question. So I have a lot of experience in recruitment admissions, student program development and retention at McMaster over some years, and I was ready for an exciting change to come to Redeemer. There's lots of new things, new programs launching in the next while, so I'm really excited in this role to help build into that growth of various programs.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you here. We're very thankful for that. So let's dive right into it here. What is the application process for the Bachelor of Education program here at Redeemer?
Zach, great question. Super timely right now. Our application is now accepting applications for the September 2025 class. We only have students entering in the fall, so we don't accept applications, for a mid-year start, which is very similar to other B.Ed programs in Ontario. So the first thing you need to do is, hop on our website, start your application. What we're really looking for is either you're in your final year of your degree from a recognized bachelor's program or higher, that's fine too, or you've completed that. And we really need to make sure your last 2 years of your undergraduate degree is at least a 70% average. So we have students sometimes who are really excited about coming to RU, and they're not quite there, and they can take some other classes to upgrade those grades so that they are eligible. We really have no wiggle room on that minimum grade requirement for the GPA because we're a pretty competitive program. Other things you're going to want to make sure you include in your application is experience of working with children. It could be different things. It could be coaching, tutoring, volunteering in a classroom, Sunday school. It could be paid or unpaid experience. So let's say you're a camp counselor, summers, that would be great experience. Parenting, though, we do have mature applicants, is not considered applicable for this program. So really looking outside the home
Right.
for your experience.
That makes sense, and not that parenting isn't working with children, but it is a different aspect of being in a trusted, role, working as a
Absolutely.
camp counselor or coach, at a school or something along those lines. That totally makes sense. So, what about for the when students enter into this application process, because it is a little bit longer than other
It
programs?
is.
What can student because if I'm a new applicant to this program, I
Yep.
fill out my application, I list my experience working with children. What else do I need as part of that application?
Yeah, so as you said, Zach, it is a little bit more than, when you applied to post secondary from high school, where it's just your grades. So, as I mentioned, we do that grade minimum and that experiential piece, talking that reflective piece, sharing your employment history. So, there's also references. So, we do need 2 references, and it's really important that applicants choose that carefully to make sure your references understand the criticality of of what they're doing. It's really important to support your application in that first stage. And as well as you have between 250 and 400 words to really talk about why you want to be in the program. You can expand on your experience and to use that space well.
Mhm.
Because it is important. We do review all those aspects of your application, and they're all really important. So to make sure you're not writing something, you're really putting thought into those pieces. So who you ask to be a reference, and that they understand what they should be talking about, right? Because that goes directly to the reference, and then again, that personal statement is important too.
Okay, and then so fill the application, make sure you got good references in there, and then is that all you need, or does it kind of continue into like an interview
Yeah,
process?
no, it does not stop there. It keeps going. So that's sort of phase one. And I want to mention as well, we do need to receive transcripts from your undergraduate degree or an in progress transcript.
Right.
Applicants don't send those in, they come right from the university and they can come by email. So that's a really important part as well. Your application cannot move on to the next stage until we have that transcript. A common question about transcripts I get, well, I'm in school still. I'm not done. Do I need to send one in now? You do need to send one in. And what happens is, let's say you're finishing your 4 year, 3 year degree in April exams. We would then get a final transcript that shows your degree conferral date, and that would then be kind of finalizing you if you are moving forward into the program. But after that bit, it's your application's reviewed. The first intake deadline is December 1st. And I will mention if you're an international student interested in coming to our program, that is your only deadline. So you need to have all of your application must be complete by December 1st. And then we do round one interviews late December, early January is when we're doing them this year, it looks like. And then those offers, that interview is really important. We can talk about that a bit more, but I'll just kind of keep going on timeline as well. If you're not quite ready for December 1, that's okay. We do have a second intake date in April 1st with interviews in May and then offers late. But the most competitive, the most opportunity you have is really that first round because a
Right.
lot of the spaces may be gone for a second round.
And uh, is there ever a scenario where students can apply for like both intake dates?
No, if they're not successful in the first intake, they can only apply once in the academic year.
Totally makes sense. And then, so just to kind of summarize, so fill out your application, make sure you get your good references, and have your school send your transcript. Even if you're in school, it'll be an in progress transcript, uh, so that it officially shows that you're on a path to graduate that undergrad program.
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely.
you, if you make it past there, you might get contacted and invited for an interview, or do all students get an interview?
No, so we go through 2 phases. So only some students will be contacted for an interview. So that's based on your GPA for those last 2 years. It's also based on your references and your statements. So that really is reviewed carefully by multiple people. And then some students will be invited for interview. I'll also mention as well, we have 2 tracks in the program. We have the primary junior and the junior intermediate. So another thing we look at is if you're applying for the junior intermediate, that's grade 4 to 10, you need to have a teaching subject.
Right.
So we need to also see on your application that you have enough courses. It's 6 with no more than 3 at the first year level. As that, if you don't have that experience, we might say, you know what, why don't you look at the primary junior as an opportunity for you to apply. So that is something really important. And there's lots of really great details on our website as well about all the teaching subjects available for you.
Okay, yeah, and for example, so if I wanted to consider, a teaching subject English, I need to make sure I have at least 6 English courses as part of my undergraduate degree, and only 3 can be at that 100 level.
Correct. And we also need a C minus average overall for the subjects as well.
Right.
The
Okay.
course, each course.
Okay. No, that's
We
good.
want you to be good at the course so you can teach students well in that area, as you
That
can probably imagine.
that makes a lot of sense. um, you've already given a lot of great, advice and bits of information. But do you have any other tips or best practices for students while they're filling out their application?
I think it's just really using the word count well. Sometimes students, when they're sharing their work experience, ask, well, I want to add more detail. And so we want to keep those, we get many applications. So we want to keep that really tight. So again, use those words well, and you do have that expanded area in the personal statement that you can, add more detail to as well in your application.
Awesome. And so that's great advice. And anyone who's listening to this or watching this, and you're thinking of applying, I encourage you, put in your application. And if you don't necessarily meet the admission requirements, look into avenues so that you can meet those. But let's talk about some of the benefits of Redeemer's education program specifically. Redeemer, it's not a larger school. What are some of the benefits of studying to be a teacher at a school like Redeemer?
Absolutely great question, Zach. And I would say, I think one of the first things is how small we are. So, other teacher college or BEd programs are quite large, and you might not have the same sense of community as you do at Redeemer. So we usually have 30 to 35 students in each of our cohorts, so primary, junior, intermediate. So that means, your classes are very small, you're all together, and you really get to know your faculty members. They really take an interest and know each student's name. That opportunity to really create that community is, I think, a real distinctive of Redeemer. Um, Also, we have more practicum days. So the Ontario College of Teachers, I'm sorry, requires 80 days of practicum. And we actually offer 110, and you start your first placements right when you begin as a first semester, first year student. And so you're able to actually, in your fourth placement, have a little bit more creativity. It doesn't have to be in a public or Catholic board classroom. You could be at a Christian school or another faith based school, an independent school. There's been opportunities as well, at camps and all kinds of other spaces where teaching does take place. So I think that's really important. And the sense of calling, I think, of our faculty and teaching education students, I think, is a real distinctive as well, because it's really about supporting their students to be exceptional educators, and having that small cohort and that extra care and opportunity to talk to faculty, very very casually, which you probably wouldn't have in many other places.
Awesome. Well, Liz, this has been fantastic. I do want to just touch on, I think sometimes students can get scared because our program is highly competitive. So,
Mhm.
when we tell prospective students applying to our Bachelor of Education, it's highly competitive, how do you navigate that conversation?
Well, I think it's really, when I've talked to some students actually just recently, it's looking at your teaching experience. So maybe having some more volunteer experience in a classroom, maybe delaying a year to make sure you have, that, because not every student will have to present with that experience that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Nor, or they might not have the GPA that's needed either. So I think those are two areas that applicants can really um, support themselves with growth to reach their goal of attaining a place in the program. And as I mentioned earlier, those references are important. So sometimes we see references come in that aren't really reflective, maybe, of what the applicant would be supportive for the applicant to move forward. So really ensuring your references kind of understand why you're asking them to be a reference, making sure they know you and they can really speak to your experience. I've had references come in that are multiple pages long and are exceptionally detailed, and these individuals really can speak into experience. I've had references come in that are a couple sentences, and that's really not a strong reference, because we really can't gauge very much there around the student.
Totally makes sense. Um, so Liz, again, lots of valuable information. If you're watching this and you're taking information away from this, please contact us at the admissions department. Head to redeemer.ca. Read more about the education program. There'll be a link in the description below. But Liz, any final thoughts to anyone out there who's considering applying to Redeemer's education program?
Well, I think one thing that's a little different with our process too is we have an interview. So that's the second stage. And so that's also your opportunity to meet some of the faculty that you'd be working with. So interviews, whether it's a job interview or interview for school, they're short, but they are two ways. You get a sense of who you'd be working with. And that's also an opportunity for you to really show your ability to teach. So you have 5 minutes to do a teach back. And if you are applying for the junior intermediate area, it'd be really great if you did that in your Teachable to really showcase your skill and come to the open house. Check us out. Come in person if you haven't been on campus before, and I'm here to support you as well. So feel free to email me, set up a visit. I'm happy to walk here on campus and really learn what Redeemer is all about.
Awesome. And Liz, we'll make sure that your email is in the description for these show notes here. So feel free, anyone's good to email you and get more information. Awesome. Well, Liz, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot that I didn't know about the education program. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise. And thanks for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure, Zach. Have a great day.
Thank you. Likewise. And if you're watching this, thank you so much for tuning in to the Redeemer podcast. God bless, and we will see you in the next episode.